we are going to head on over to a video game corner. We've been here a few times. It's typically during our Weekend Geeks and Nerd Therapies, but sometimes you just got to throw it in at the beginning of a random episode. So, we've got some video game news out there that we're going to talk about briefly, and we're going to share what we've been playing lately. So, Lub, why don't you start us off with the news here?
We got an update on a couple of games. We have Hogwarts Legacy 2, which I did enjoy the first one. It wasn't a perfect game. It was missing some things like a morale system, and the story was decent, but I feel like the second one's going to be better because I feel like they spent their whole budget on just creating Hogwarts and everything around it. So now that's already, in the system. They can spend the money on the other things.
Right.
But it says Hogwarts 2 is a very big priority at Warner Brothers. And however, unlike the first game, which is set in the 1890s, the sequel could have a modern setting to fall in line with the upcoming TV series from HBO. There's no telling how this potential new setting will work out. After all, the 1890s perfectly complements the aesthetic of Hogwarts Legacy. That being said, when Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone first released in cinemas in 2001, the modern setting was also ideally suited, is what this report says. So they're trying to say there's, the new TV series on Max coming out where each season is going to be one book. So maybe this could be a prequel to it. We get like a young Sirius Black, maybe some Tom Riddle in there before that, beginning of the game, who knows. But yeah, so that does look interesting. Hopefully this is just as good as the first one.
Be cool. I've heard good things about it. I haven't played it yet. I don't know that I'm going to plan on it. But it was a game, like, growing up as a kid when I watched that stuff, I always thought, like, that'd be a dope game if they actually, like, let you be a student and go through all this and have
It's
an
hella
open
fun.
world. And they finally did it. So, yeah, maybe I'll slowly make my way over there. But,
Right.
yeah. You finished the first one, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I mean, I definitely wasn't bored throughout, but there were some things where you can, like, do Avada Kedavra at Hogwarts, and, like, no one will, like, say anything. Like, you won't get in trouble for that.
Oh, that takes the fun away.
No,
from
wait,
it.
no,
You
I'm
don't
sorry.
kill
You
people
can't. You
just to
can't
kill
do
them.
it inside the school, but there's a mission where you go with the teacher. And I was just Avada Kedavering all these people, and he like didn't even like flinch an eye, like so. Yeah, so that was one part lacking.
Hey, welcome to Avada Kedavra. That sounds fun.
And there's
Anything else?
Yeah, one more piece
Yeah.
of news. Actually, the Game Awards are today, which a lot of stuff is dropping.
Oh.
Trailers, obviously, award for like Game of the Year.
Wow.
But
okay.
The Witcher 4 actually had a trailer that dropped. And you see that Ciri is the main character of this game. It's not Geralt anymore. But yeah, they're in pre-production into they're from pre-production into full-scale production. So obviously they have this trailer out. It's like a 6-minute trailer. I didn't have time to watch it yet, but pretty long one. And someone at the top comment said this trailer did what the Netflix series couldn't do in 3 seasons. So it's probably hype.
I mean, that series got torn apart, it evidently. Again, we stopped liking it after the first couple of seasons, and we didn't even know the original lore, really, until recently. So, yeah, I've got the third one. I know it won Game of the Year. Mac hates me because he got that for me for my birthday a few years back,
God.
and I just never started to play it. He's like, I hate you. I bought you that game. It's top 5 game of all time, and you still haven't played it yet. So,
Dude, I would agree. I finished
get
that
to
game
it.
too. It
Yeah,
took me a
all
while, like multiple sittings. I stopped playing it for like 6 months, then went back to it. But yeah, it's probably top 5 for me.
all right, I think it's next. Which, while we're discussing that, next after a current game I'm playing, unless you got any other news.
That's it.
All right. I finally got into Jedi Survivor, which I was going to talk about briefly just because.
It came out on Xbox
No,
One.
I still don't have a PS5. All right,
Right.
get off my back. I don't have an Xbox Series X. I just got the one. They released it on the one just for me, so I got it. Dude, I love it. I will say I can definitely tell like the graphics didn't exactly transition perfectly back to the old. Like I can it looked way better when I played it a little bit at your house than it does here.
Okay.
It's pretty much the same exact quality as Fallen Order. Even a little glitchy sometimes. But anyways, outside of that, dude, I love it. I loved Fallen Order. It was simple, there wasn't a ton to it. It wasn't a big, massive game, but it was super fun to play. But, dude, Survivor, they just nailed it. I think they improved on every aspect of the game. There's way more stuff to do. I've been putting in a ton of time into the rumors and side mission stuff to where I was like, all right, I should probably finish this game. And I started it, and I'm like, oh, I'm still not done yet. There's multiple missions left, but there's just so much more to explore. All the customization on your lightsabers and everything. Like there's such fine detail to every. I've spent so much time just customizing stuff. Fast travel is so legit. It helps out the game so much getting to use that. And like there's just been a few missions where it was a blast to play. Like Cal and Marin where they're stopping the Empire and you discover how to do that fast or that little like dash in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just going through this whole chase scene, and then I'm not going to ruin anything else, I guess, because spoiler alerts. But there's a crazy mission towards the end where there's something. Spoil. Yeah, all right. Well, there's a betrayal. If you haven't played it yet and you don't want to go ahead and skip ahead, but one of the guys you're working with betrays you, which I got that spoiled too. But that mission when Cal finds out and starts leaning into the dark side, and you're like just destroying people, leaning into the darkness. Oh my god. I have had so much fun on this game. It's one of the funnest games I've played in a while, and I could play it forever. It's just, and again, it's still not like crazy. It's not like, I don't know, whatever's going on Elden Ring and stuff, but it's just enough for me. It's perfect skill level for me and everything. I thought they knocked it out of the park. So it was nice to see a Star Wars game come out and be successful and not be outlaws.
Right. Yeah. Because I played that game for a couple hours and I don't want to go back at all. But all those snaps you sent makes me want to play Survivor again. Like, that game was a lot of fun.
Dude, it's so fun. Just some of the combos, you're just firing both sabers from deep, pulling it back.
Different stances, too.
Yeah. You get to do the cross guard. You have all multiple different stances. Right? They broke into it. No, absolutely not. No. You unlocked the double saber, dual wield saber towards the end.
You run.
Well, that was the double saber. Yeah, and then I think the last mission you're able to break it into a dual wield, I think, or something. But dude, there's so much more to it. I've loved it, and the story's really good too. Like, it's a really interesting story. I'm super into the cutscenes and whatnot. Vader's appearance is wild. So I think they killed it. I hope they do one more. I don't know if there's plan to. I got I think one mission left, so I haven't finished it yet. But yeah.
Right.
You liked it more than Fallen Order, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It definitely expanded on the first one perfectly.
What have you been playing? Let's hear it.
I just got on Black Friday. Because I went from Outlaws, played a little Assassin's Creed, and then I went to Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, every person that's played that game says, oh, it's the greatest game of all time. It's obviously the same people who do Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar. So it's like their other game, their main game, AAA game. Yeah. And it's a slow start, but I can definitely see, like, the story that they're trying to tell. It's very cinematic compared to Grand Theft. I mean, Grand Theft Auto is pretty cinematic, but yeah, it's like it could be definitely be a TV show. I could see it being a TV show one day.
Yeah, I've seen some funny cutscenes too. I gotta play it. Mm-hmm. Ben, what about you? You played Red Dead Redemption? Were you playing any of these games before? No.
I got nothing to add here.
Hell yeah. Well, let's move on to the show then. All right, welcome in to another episode of Why So Sidious, a nerd podcast. I'm your host, David. Here with me is my co-host, Caleb, and our returning special guest, Mr. Ben. Thank you, Ben, for joining us here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
As always, we're happy to have you on. Ben obviously has been here in our House of the Dragon episodes in the past. He's been covering that. He was reading Fire and Blood right before that came out, so he was kind of our expert in the field on certain details, and he's back here to cover Dune Prophecy, which is what we're going to be covering today. And speaking of Dune, you both have read the books. I've got about 80 pages left, and we've teased the audience out there that we are going to do a little episode where we, compare the two between the book and the movie. But just briefly, Ben, without too much spoilers and whatnot, how'd you like the Dune book in general and compared to the movie? Just real quick,
So when I saw the first movie in theaters was the first time I had seen or read anything Dune related whatsoever, and I was just kind of hooked instantly. The first and the second are probably two of my favorite movies ever. So I got the book and read through it pretty quickly. With most things, I like the book a little bit better. I don't know, when you're reading something, you're able to like project your own images and see things a certain way. But like I said, I love the movies. Dune 2 is probably in my top 10, I'd say. And I have not started the second book yet. Waiting a little bit for that to get closer to the third movie.
Oh.
Straight up, which is, I said I wasn't going to do that, but after reading this book right now and some of the comments Dania's made, I think I'm going to read Messiah before the movie comes out too. And I was very against that 6 months ago or less. So I think I'm leaning at that. And Lub, I know, again, we're going to get more into detail of it, but compared to the movie and whatnot, what was your reaction to Dune, the book?
I love the book. Definitely the last, probably where you're at, the last 80, maybe 50 pages are just insane, which is obviously the end of Dune Part 2. But just the way they portray it in the book, it's just like, I don't know, I never felt so much like anxiety while it was an audiobook, but still, listening to a book, just like, oh my God, like what is going to happen next? And I even knew it was going to happen, but still. But I like Zendaya over her portrayal over Chani in the book. I feel like Chani in the book was more like, it was written in the 60s, so it was a little different back then. But I feel like Zendaya is just more like badass than, the book version.
Yeah, I'm noticing they're different in that regard. I can already tell that I'm gonna. Well, they already give hints that are differences, and again, we'll get into that. But the way Zendaya reacted to Paul and the way they're kind of leading into it with the book, you can tell it's going to be a different type of situation.
Yeah, I wouldn't have liked that in the movie. I'll say that.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have made sense with who she was.
Yeah, that makes sense. But dude, yeah, it's really good, man. Like I said, I got 80 pages, but the second half of it, or once it hits book 3, like it was all really good, but once it hits that book 3 in the first book, I think it's called The Prophecy or something, I don't remember.
Yeah.
It's so good, and I'm just loving the visual. Frank Herbert's a hell of an author. He really paints pictures pretty well.
Dude. And I'm starting to see things that even George R.R. Martin kind of took from Frank Herbert as well. It's not just George Lucas. It's like, two of the greatest creators of fantasy afterwards stole a little bit from this guy,
Yeah. A lot of stuff coming out of the Dune universe. So we're going to get into that. Again, we're going to be covering Dune Prophecy episodes 3 and 4. It's the miniseries running on Max. It's the prequel that takes place about 10,000 years before the birth of Paul Muad'Dib Atreides. We are finding a bunch of other great houses and characters coming into fruition, mainly the Harkonnens and Atreides. But before we get to that, go ahead and follow us on our socials. Unfortunately, we've got to face the truth here. We've got to face what's happening, and it looks like TikTok is going down. JD, our man JD, has just boosted our page over there. We broke 16,000 followers. I mean, we were doing great on there. It was helping our numbers, and it really looks like it's going to be banned. We were hoping that might not be the case, but...
Come on, Donnie T.
Yeah, so it's not looking good. So if you are on TikTok and you're not on our others, go ahead and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and X. JD is going to be transitioning his masterful efforts onto another platform here, and we'll keep you posted on that. But go ahead and give us a follow there. YouTube for sure, trying to build that one.
Right.
Just broke 400, so we're slowly moving, but we would appreciate it.
When do we get a
and
plaque?
then go ahead and... What's up?
When do you get the plaque? Is it
400 followers plaque? I think it's 400. So, comes in made out of foil, but eventually when you get more, they'll give you more substantial materials. Go ahead and check out. We got Weekend Geeks dropping regularly, pretty much almost every week we've been dropping them. We've got a lot of Comic Talk episodes out there. Comic Talk 2 with returning guest Corono. They covered Batman and Spider-Man rogues in the comics. And then we just dropped a Comic Talk 3 with Illuminerdi, talking about the best Marvel and DC events and eras. It's a jam-packed one, so if you're a comic book fan, go ahead and head over to that. And...
Oh, getting emotional.
I'm not even going to edit that one out.
$5.
We also covered Craven's Last Hunt with the movie coming out here soon. We read the little series from the 80s there, and we've been covering Dune Prophecy.
Did you see the IGN review of Craven?
Uh-oh. No, but I imagine it's going to be in the 6s.
3 out of 10. Yeah.
To be fair, IGN, other than Rotten Tomatoes, is probably my most hated review source out there, but
they're pretty bad.
That's fair. And then stay tuned. We're going to have an upcoming episode with the boy Clan Brandalorian. We're going to be joining him for a Star Wars episode. Just a good old-fashioned Star Wars talk. We haven't had it in a while. All three hosts are going to be there with them, and we're just going to be discussing our issues with it, any hopes that we have or what hopes there are that we have for the rest of the Star Wars future here and upcoming projects and all that good stuff. Just all out Star Wars, so be sure to join us on that. So... And sorry, link in the description. Go ahead and support our show and check out our merch shop. I don't think I ever remember to drop that line. JD always does, but we do have a merch shop out there, so go ahead and check it out. Got some cool stuff on there. So let's get into it. We're covering the Max series, Dune Prophecy. We're going to briefly cover episode 3 and then get into the most recent, fairly wild episode 4. We'll do some recaps real quick, and I might miss some stuff in the recap of episode 3 because it's kind of... A, it was a couple weeks ago, but B, the whole episode was kind of like a flashback blur. So it was, I don't know. It's an interesting episode, but we start off, we see young Valya at Lankaville, which was the old home of the Harkonnens before they moved to Giedi Prime. We see her getting her brother killed, trying to push him to take revenge on the Atreides, and her family grows to despise her more and more. Tula is still liked by the family. Valya definitely not. So you can see them going in different directions here, but Tula always follows after Valya. We flash forward and we see Tula seducing an Atreides before revealing that she slaughtered the entire Atreides crew as revenge for her brother that we saw earlier. Mr. Griffin there, he got killed. So a lot of flashing back and forth between young and older Tula. Is it Tula or Tulia? Tula. I just want to say Tulia. All right, Tula and Valya. We see some Bene Gesserit take some intense eye drops to experience the agony. And we learn that Lila is not dead, but is in a vegetable state.
You were right.
I was right. Thank you. But kind of. We'll see here. So that's probably one of the worst recaps I've had in a while. But like I said, it was kind of a blur. So there it is. Let's start just discussing the first part of this. All these Harkonnen flashbacks. We go back to this frozen planet. They're whale farmer. They're not whale farmers. They're cutting up whales, selling whales. They're whalers. And
steaks.
What's up?
Whale steaks and whale fur.
Whale steaks, yeah, like Obi-Wan. It's a pretty
right.
common deal to do, I guess, when you're down in your luck. So we see some surrounding cast of the Harkonnens, and who do we see? It's Bobby B. It's Mr. Bobby B from the Iron Throne strolling in. He's down on his luck. He didn't die from that boar stab. He just got the hell out of there, so he didn't have to deal with Cersei anymore. Right. He went to the snow. And actually later we even see the ancestor of Catelyn Stark, Tully. I forgot his first name. Oscar. Oscar. Mr. Oscar Tully. Yeah. Because Catelyn Tully. Yeah. And then Stark, and then boom, bang, beady bang. So we got some Game of Thrones cameos. But yeah, how we like Bobby B showing up here, Caleb?
Well, if we're speaking of Bobby B, I got a quick little top 5 Robert Baratheon quotes from Game of Thrones.
Hell yeah.
At number 5, they never tell you how they all shit themselves. They never put that in the songs. Another one. It's a neat little trick you do. You move your lips and your father's voice comes out. That was a great one he told to Cersei.
Oh, that's a good one.
The king's too fat for his armor. Go find the breastplate stretcher. Classic. Wear it in silence or I'll honor you again. Crazy line when he slaps Cersei.
That was a gnarly one.
Yeah, gnarly one. I mean, not all of them are funny. Especially, this is number 1. This is definitely a very serious one. You want to know the horrible truth? I can't even remember what she looked like. I only know she was the one thing I ever wanted. Someone took her away from me, and 7 kingdoms couldn't fill the hole she left behind. Like, bars, and that's deep. That's deep.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I had to put that.
That was a good one. About Lyanna Stark there. That was I'm gonna have to go back and watch season 1.
Right. But yeah, it was
Ben,
great.
what about you?
Oh, I was gonna say, it was great to see him back.
Straight up.
Ben,
how'd you like seeing the Game of Thrones cameo? No, I haven't either. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen him in another project. I'm gonna look that up in the meantime. But Ben, how'd you feel about seeing these Game of Thrones cameos?
Yeah, I haven't seen him in anything else, but it was cool for both of them. Even Oscar Tully, obviously not as well known as Bobby B, but definitely recognizable. You watched House of the Dragons at all? And
Straight up.
I don't know if we're going to talk about that whole the poisoning scene and how he kind of survives.
Yeah.
But I think that's Kieran Atreides' dad would be my guess. Kind of, he's the lone survivor from that whole poisoning.
Yeah. So that's what I was wondering. I don't know how. It's hard to tell with these timelines because the same thing with Lila. Like, I think her mom was Dorothea, but I also don't get how she could have birthed the kid before she got stabbed and murdered there. So I don't know if it's his dad or his grandpa on the Atreides side, but I think you're right. That's got to be a surviving Atreides because obviously he was the only one left alive in that slaughter. Yeah, I think he's got to have a significant purpose there. Oh, you got to be kidding me. All right, you guys have seen A Knight's Tale, right?
Yes.
Heath Ledger?
Right.
Bobby B was the fat guy in his crew. I don't know. If you see the
I
picture of
haven't
him, you
seen that
immediately
in maybe
dude,
20
that's
years.
wild.
His pre-Game of
Yeah.
Thrones. Yeah.
It's been a minute. Yeah, no, that was like probably like 2008, 2007. I don't even know, but there you go.
His first
All right.
major role.
2001. Oh my God, I'm old. Wow. Okay, here we go. So yeah, that was interesting to see the Harkonnen deal. It was interesting to see how far they'd fallen since that whole war with the AI. You know, we have and they don't go into full detail here, but I saw a little clip talking about it too. Apparently, the Atreides guy in this war was ready to attack, and they needed the Harkonnen help, and the Harkonnens thought it was suicide. And they're like, "We're not joining you on this." So he like disabled his army's weapons and basically marched them out of the battle, and the Atreides and everybody else still went to their death and ended up winning the battle. So the Harkonnens were cowards, the Atreides was the hero, and now we see these Harkonnens sitting there banished. Their name actually wasn't even Harkonnen. It was a different name, and then they were given the name Harkonnen almost as an insult or something. But so yeah, it was kind of interesting seeing this. Ben, what do we think of this whole flashback part of young Valya and Tula? Anything significant?
I thought it was good because it added some context, but I thought it was maybe a little too much just because I'm sure this will be brought up a bunch of times today, but a 6-episode season, and that was basically the entirety of the episode. Like I said, it was probably needed and good, but I feel like they need to cram other stuff into each episode, and they're not really doing a great job at that so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was too much time spent on that. I think we got the point of what we needed to know for the future here. And again, like you said, there's 2 episodes left. And I think this is a mini series from what I remember. I don't think this is season 1 of a show. So it seemed like an interesting amount to spend on that. Lub, what'd you think of the flashbacks?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of using flashbacks to tell a story, especially when it's like an extended one and you only have 6 episodes. But I feel like they're setting us up for a second season if they get one, just the way the story's going. I don't see things concluding in 2 episodes. But I do like that the show is setting up the Harkonnens well. I feel like because, they're like these quiet, reserved people who are just trying to get in the good graces of the Imperium again. And then by the time they're in Dune, they're obviously running shit again. But I guess Valya uses the voice on Mother Rakella, and she doesn't even know about it. So she was like, how'd you do that? But you can't quite control it yet. I can teach you to kind of harness your power. So maybe Valya is like the inventor of the voice, but which I feel like they're doing a lot of origin stories in this show. Like when Tula kills Ori Atreides, she uses like basically a Ganjubar. I'm pretty sure. It's like a poison needle. So like they're just like doing I feel like they're like taking up all the origins, like maybe save a couple.
Yeah, it's the classic. You don't have to explain everything. We don't need to know how Han Solo got his vest or that horrible explanation to his name. We just don't need to know certain things like that. But yeah, I liked the Harkonnen background to it. The thing I like most out of this, the Valya stuff was fine. She's out in the rain, and Mother Raquel comes out to her and is like, all right, you got to come in, do your thing, yada, yada, yada. She's obviously special. She stands outside of everybody, they make that a pretty obvious point. But Tula was the most interesting thing to me because she's the quiet one. You can tell she's the most reserved as she is older, and we see this whole setup that she had, which that Valya had to have instigated this plan. I don't think this was Tula's coming up with this plan, and that was an insanely gnarly thing to do. Like, it was a crazy scene. We get the crazy dynamic between, the sex scene flashing back to the family dancing around the fire, which one thing this show does a ton is symbolism. They show a lot of cinematography shots that are like, okay, that's obviously an eye. It was an eyeball a lot in these 2 episodes. The overhead shot of them dancing around the fire was an eye. Desmond's burning paper in a little circular pit later. It's an eye. We go into Desmond's eye. We see the worm. There's so many different shots in these 2 episodes that was a zoom-in shot of an eye. So I noticed that in that scene there. But, man, the next thing you know, they're all dead. The whole scene with her and Ori was pretty well performed. Like, you could feel the emotion in Tula as she was about to reveal what just happened. And then the bull shows up over at the top of the cliff. Which is theorized to represent how... What's up? Well, that's the thing. So my first thought was House Atreides, okay. But House Atreides' sigil is the hawk, or the eagle. And then I guess the bull is theorized to represent House Harkonnen, whereas the rival family Atreides are the matadors to the bull. Because Paul's... Right. So it was like, okay. So I guess Harkonnen's... The bull is kind of being their symbol. Yeah, it did remind me of that House of the Dragon scene. Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Did we know that Tula and Valya were sisters before? Did I miss that?
Yeah, I think so.
Did they ever mention it though?
Maybe I just
didn't
assumed.
know for sure before. I think maybe like the 2nd episode there was something.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it
there
wasn't
was
announced clearly, and then obviously the 3rd you
find out.
see. Yeah.
So there was a description before the show came out that it was going to be following 2 Harkonnen sisters or something like that. So I think I was just assuming from the jump with it.
Because when she says, my brother was killed by an Atreides too, and I was like, wait, I thought that was Valya's brother. It kind of confused me for a second, but then it was kind of like a crazy reveal for me. I was like, oh shit, they're sisters, and she's like, doing this whole plot for her brother as well.
Right. The only other thing I liked of these flashbacks, again, I wasn't crazy about it, and it was kind of disorienting. It was bouncing back and forth so much and to different years. Like, I swear, we'd see a scene that happened in point A, and then we go to point B, and then C would be a time that happened before point A, and it was just like, wait, dude, we are going all over the place right now. So I really didn't enjoy that much.
You know who the showrunner is, right? What they did before?
No.
Westworld. So that show jumps around without even letting you know that they're jumping around. Like, the whole reveal to season 1 is that there's been 2 timelines the whole time. So, like, it's really crazy.
Whoa! I didn't finish the finale.
It's been 10 years.
Not even kidding. I know. I'm not even kidding. I don't know why I stopped with 1 episode. But the other thing I was going to mention is that scene where Mother Raquel drops down to retrieve Valya out of the rain. The ship is coming down slowly. I love the ship designs in Dune. Mm-hmm. Like, in the movies and in the show too, that they're so unique. They're not your standard ship shapes. They're like weird oval oblong shapes and just different type of stuff that is just very unique, but I just love the feel to it. They're slowly descending in the rain, and I just love the shots in this show and this just Dune universe and the massive thing they all like wormhole travel through and all that. I love the scale and design of these ships in this universe.
They're very sleek.
All right. If you guys don't have anything else to say on those flashbacks, we can get into the second half of this, which I don't have a lot on episode 3. We learn Lila's not dead. Yeah. What do you got?
It was kind of cool seeing her use the voice on her mom. It was like the final straw of her getting like really like, you are not allowed back here anymore.
Dude, holds the
fair
knife. Like, grab the knife. And she's like, what are you doing?
Dude, that was wild. That was an intense scene. Yeah, no, good call.
Yeah, Valya's dark. She's dark as fuck.
Yeah, no kidding. So we get into the future. Lila's not dead. She's basically a vegetable in limbo, and Tula is not accepting the fact that she's gone. You need to let her go. She's not going to recover from whenever she is here. So she puts her in this kind of basically a Bacta tank, but with sand, with spice instead of Bacta in the Star Wars universe. She's just in a tank full of spice. Something else we saw, they do the whole blue liquid thing where they go through the agony. Again, we saw Lila do that, but then we saw, I think, Dorothea do it in this episode because Valya passed on it. And it's interesting. So I don't know what the difference is, but when they do it in Dune, Jessica and Paul are both taking this liquid directly from the worm and like drinking it. And then these guys are like growing plants, like herbs, and squeezing the juice out of the herbs to do it. So I'm wondering what the difference is there. If like on Arrakis it's more pure and this is like the synthetic or the man-made version of it. But
you probably can't grow that plant on Arrakis either, I'd imagine.
Right. Yeah. Well. What do we think of this? Ben, any thoughts on the agony or any of the stuff regarding Lila coming back in this episode? Or she didn't come back in this episode, being dead in this episode?
Well, we did get to see Valya go through it at the end of the flashbacks when she's out in the snow.
That's right.
Right. By herself in the snow, not a good idea.
Because remember, right before she left, it was like, if you go back, you have to make the decision, either stay there or do this and come back a mother.
That's right. Okay.
So that part was pretty good too. But yeah, I don't have anything else really for the rest of it.
Yeah, that's fair. Lub?
There was a great line which I think kind of teases or foreshadows what happens at the end of episode 4. When they're doing a class, this is like a random class going on the side, and they say, "Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind." That was like the verse they're reading, so something happens later. But I did like where Valya brings the other two acolytes under the
Cone of Silence.
Cone of Silence, and she's like, "Let me show you," and it says, "Face her, slap her." And I'm like, oh crap! But they like just start laughing, and they're like, "Can you teach us how to do it?" I was like, "That's how you make people loyal to you, like show you." Right. It's kind of what Desmond's doing, show you this power that they don't have, that they can't, actually perceive, and then you're subservient to them after that.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting. Again, I think my problem is they just spent too much time on it, but there were a few bits and pieces like that were pretty interesting and good to see. I don't have anything else for episode 3. I want to get into episode 4 because there's a lot of good stuff that happens there. So do you guys have any other final words on episode 3?
Bobby,
one of the weaker episodes of the season, right?
Yeah. Bobby B had a nice new spot at the end of the episode back in present time when Valya goes to meet him. He goes from like this, random hut to where he's in the city now with his nephew, I'm guessing, the guy we see in the next episode. So he moved up in the world. Ice.
Yeah, Bobby B's doing all right. Let's get into episode 4. This was, I think, one of the better episodes so far. It was really good. A lot of interesting stuff. I'm thankful to Ben because I watched the first half of it wide awake, was enjoying it. The second half, I was kind of in and out of sleep, and I thought it was pretty solid, but, Ben was talking about how much he liked it, so I rewatched the second half of it, and it just came off totally different, was conscious and aware of things happening and was actually able to understand the scenes, and what do you know, I really enjoyed it. So we'll get into just a quick recap. We see the Bene Gesserits having a shared dream, or more accurately, like a prophetic nightmare. Later on in the episode, they are drawing what they see, resulting in the same images being drawn by everyone eventually. Valya is on a personal mission to raise House Harkonnen back into the Council of the Great Houses with the aim of calling for an investigation into the death of the child Riches, I believe. While she also plans to thwart the assassination attempt that the Atreides and his friends are planning. However, the attack is thwarted by Desmond at the Landsraad right after he admits to executing the child for using thinking machines. He then proceeds to burn more people alive from the inside to make a point and to show a strength, and to have a show of strength by House Carino. Later, we see Tula having similar visions that the girls experienced before waking up and seeing Lila resurrected. The episode ends with us seeing Theo showing her special powers that she swore to never use again, showing to Valya that she is all in on the cause. lot of crazy stuff. So that opening dream sequence here, they're all spazzing in the bed. I mean, they're seeing these different visions. And I forget exactly. I mean, we hit the sand dune. We hit the. It looked like they were looking over the pool, and then they get their throats slit at the end. It's pretty. It's obviously a nightmare. I don't remember it scene for scene, but Lub, what did you think of this whole shared dream to kick us off in this episode?
It was pretty wild. It definitely shows the connection that all these, sisters have here. Like they're, even in the drawing scene later where they all just start drawing the exact same thing. Like they're very connected. And I don't know, it's kind of, you guys really like this episode. I definitely have a couple issues. Maybe it's not with the episode itself, but the season as a whole. Because I feel like they're throwing a lot at you because, like the girl who didn't have the dream, she's a very interesting character, and she's kind of just had like a line here or there where she says something different than everyone else, but like, what else do we really know about her? Like, why didn't she have the dream? They haven't really touched on that at all. I feel like
that's got to be coming up. That's got to. I feel like that has to. They've made such a point to show her kind of exploring and walking around and being like, yeah, I'm the only one who didn't experience this. So I have to imagine that's going to pop up in the next episode or so. But I'm interested to see what they do with that. But yeah. No, it's fair. Ben, how'd you like it? How'd you like this opening sequence?
Yeah, my main thing, like Caleb said, was Sister Jen is the girl that didn't have the dream. And just, obviously, it's not a coincidence. There's something with that there. So I am interested to see. But I do get what you're saying. Like, with the 6 episodes, you either have to cram a bunch in, or, like Caleb also said, it looks like they're setting up for a second season. Obviously, that's not confirmed or hasn't been said at all. But it would make a lot of sense at this point, rather than just throwing 100 things at us these last 2 episodes.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like that's a modern.
50-50.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, we've done miniseries before where they say this is a miniseries, and then it does well, and it's like season 2 coming. It's like, okay, so I don't think it's an automatic thing. I think it's a very, very likely possibility that we do get an extended season after this.
And I wonder what the ratings are, or the views are on this show, because I feel like it's getting mixed reviews.
I was just going to ask if you had seen anything like that coming out of this. I haven't really. It's not great on Rotten Tomatoes. It's at a 70%. IMDb, it's a 7.4 out of 10. 2.1 million viewers after the first 2 episodes.
Oh, okay. Not bad.
So it's not doing great, I guess, but not horrible.
I guess it would be interesting if they choose to do a second season, or if they're going to just jump closer to where the movies are at. You know what I mean? Because
right.
Obviously, there would be quite the time gap in between.
Yeah.
Right. Like Yellowstone, which obviously it's a big difference, but they did prequels, so they did 1883 and then they jumped to 1923, and it's showing different stages to get to where we've seen the original show at. So yeah, maybe it's something like that where we're going to see just the history of this
That'd be cool.
Universe
But
leading
taking
into
up all
Paul
the
Atreides.
origins.
Right? You got to save some of those things, dude. So right after not right after, but later, Tula gathers all the girls together to draw what they saw in these shared nightmares they had. And the old lady has really got something up her ass. She just won't let this go. I don't know what her deal is. What do we think her deal is here? Do we think she's just old and stubborn, or is she actually trying to prevent progress? Or
right. Yeah, she's stuck in the old ways.
She's like Valya's little henchwoman that's just, what would Valya do? We should do this kind of deal. Like, not really able to think
doesn't believe in Tula.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, she was doubting her from the start.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. She's been weird.
They kind of end up on the same page after the drawings, though.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was crazy. So she's trying to get her to stop because they're all freaking out, just like going nuts on this paper. And she's like, "What are you doing? Knock it off." She's like, "No, they got to keep drawing." And they won't stop, even though she's telling them, "All right, stop, everybody break it off." And they're stuck on that last drawing where they're just coloring it in all black except for the 2 eyes. It was pretty wild. It was intense. And she was like, this wasn't me why they stopped. It was something else. Something else like made that happen. And it was interesting. So right when they stop, Tula walks away from the group to the very end of the room and stands in front of this big circular window pane. And she literally looked like the same figure in the visions of the shadowy figure within the circle. And again, it made another eye symbol. But we see that for a brief moment where it looked like she was the figure in the dream. And then later we see her in vision cutting that girl's throat, which was what they saw in those dreams, was a girl getting her throat cut. So it was interesting. It feels like Tula kept popping in and out of these little visions here and there and having a connection to it. So it's just yet another thing, which I don't know what it is, but.
Well, I mean, she slit someone's throat later in the episode, so I guess it was a premonition.
But that was a vision though, right? That didn't actually happen. Then she woke up from it.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't think she actually cut the throat. Right, and then the worm busts through the room, and then she wakes up sitting at the box where Lila was.
Because she was having that dream because, not to jump ahead too much, but because
no,
Lila
go
was
for
out
it.
of the box, so she was just getting spice all up in
Oh, dude, good call. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before they do the drawings, they all take like a tab of spice.
Right.
And then that's what
Little-
makes them
Little creative freedoms.
Yeah, something like that.
Ooh.
You made me think
All right,
of
everybody
another
get real
thing,
high.
though.
What's up?
You made me think of another origin with the drawings. Fear is the mind
What's that?
killer. Well, you know,
Oh.
the line Jessica repeats all the time. Fear is the
Right.
mind killer. So they were in. Even Tula says it. You know, it wasn't me. It was fear that woke them up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they were just like in this blind rage, blind, catastrophe inside their mind. So
Right. Yeah, no, that's a good point. They do really got to chill on the origins of phrases and stuff like this. But that was crazy, though. So we see, it turns out it might not be the pool, but it's Shai-Hulud is what Tula says. She goes, that's not the pool, that's Shai-Hulud. And then we see those eyes. So what are we thinking here? Ben, let's start with you. What are we thinking that this being is, the eyes that we're seeing here? And at one point she says, God is watching and he's judging us. So what do we think the figure behind this image is?
I think it's Desmond somehow. And
Okay.
I'm not sure if he's human. Like my guess is there's something else going on there, obviously, with the powers he has. But yeah,
Right.
that's kind of, I feel like he's the reason behind it somehow.
Straight up.
Obviously, we don't have a lot of information to go off of, but that's my best guess.
I like it. Love, what about you? You got any theories on it?
Well, I mean, in the Dune movies, we know about Shai-Hulud and the worms, but like in Messiah and the books down the road, I haven't read them yet, obviously, but we do learn a lot more about the worms and their actual, powers and, telepathic powers and whatever they're, doing out there. So I think it might be, Shai-Hulud over on Arrakis trying to stop shit. Like, he's just messing with everyone. So I think it's the worm.
Yeah. All right. Well, kind of like I was, one of my theories I threw out there was that this whole thing is Shai-Hulud trying to stop the prophecy of Paul, who's going to come and enslave the Fremen to take them on his holy war. So I think that's a possibility. I've seen a crazy theory out there theorizing that. So later on in the books, there's a character called the Emperor God Leto II. He is an offspring of Paul, who turns into a worm hybrid and is like this almost omniscient, just fever dream of a character that Frank's Weird Sons wrote. But the theory is that a lot of people out there are saying is apparently he was able, which Paul can, in the books it describes, Paul's trying to differentiate. Am I remembering something that happened or something that happens in 30 years from now or something that happened to somebody else 50 years before? What is in my brain right now? So I guess Leto II was able to look into the past too. So there are theories out there that it's him watching these things roll out and like almost influencing what's going on right now from all the way in the future, which is,
I hope not.
pretty, yeah, it's too much for 2 episodes left. But like, I like the Shai-Hulud thing. I think Desmond and Lila both are being controlled by the same entity on 2 different levels almost essentially, which we'll get into the Lila thing. We might as well, because then we'll talk about the Landsraad after. So Lila is resurrected, like you just said. She comes out of the box. She's got her Fremen blue eyes there, and she's like, "Where am I?" So I'm curious what you guys think, but we had her vision where Dorothea starts like hijacking her agony trip and is like, "I'm coming for revenge. I'm coming for Valya. You took everything from me." So I'm wondering if this actually isn't Lila, but she's like possessed by Dorothea hijacking this thing. Or if she is another page of Desmond. Like if she's going to be another like side of the same coin kind of deal who is fighting with Tula while Desmond and Valya fight and are button heads. And then maybe it comes down to Tula wasn't able to stop Lila because she thinks of her as a daughter. And Lila's going to overcome her. Valya overcomes Desmond, and that's going to be a clash of Valya and Lila coming down to the finale of whatever this entity is fighting against the Bene Gesserit. So that's my crazy theory out there. Caleb, what are you thinking about Lila's role going forward? What do you think she's about to do?
I'm glad she's alive, first of all, because I was very excited for her kind of chosen one-esque character. In the genetic archive, it looks pretty sick. Definitely using thinking machines. There's definitely some technology going on there, not allowed. That's why it's so secret.
I was going to say, what's Tula up to down here?
Right. Well, Valya too, she knows. But Lila, and then on the next it looks like Lila's going around like screaming in people's faces and like being hella weird and hella crazy. So I don't know what she's about to start doing. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
So I missed that whole "it's a dream" part, because it makes sense though, because the acolyte says, you know, your sins have brought the reckoning. Murdering Ori won't silence me like you did Dorothea. And obviously, you know, an acolyte wouldn't know all of that, but the way she was saying it, you know, Tula's like, and you know, who's really the protagonist of this show? Like Tula and Valya.
No idea.
Are, you know, they've done some messed up stuff. Like both of them, they're manipulative. They're, you know, the sisterhood is basically just them two, not really everyone. It's just the Harkonnens.
Yeah. They're ruthless. It's like, it's funny because they're not the Harkonnens we know in modern Dune, obviously, but it reminds me of Gurney's line to Paul. He goes, "You've never met Harkonnens. I have. They're brutal. They're not human. Like, they're ruthless." And it's like, we're kind of seeing those, you know, points of it. They just have hair. But
and even Valya says to Bobby B later, she's like, "I would have raised you up if you didn't kick me out. Like, it wasn't about, you know, I just needed a place to rise to the top. That's all I wanted."
Yeah, that's interesting. Ben, what do you think about Lila coming back?
So there's a part where Mother Raquel says the key to the reckoning is one born twice, once in blood, once in spice.
Yep.
And Valya assumes that's Desmond, but
right.
I'm starting to think that it's probably Lila.
She was literally born in spice.
Yeah, exactly.
In a spice chamber.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no clue where it's heading, to be honest. Like, with the only 2 episodes left, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think Lila does fall within that prophecy. I think it's possible that it's her and Desmond both. Again, like I was saying, 2 sides of the same coin kind of deal. But if it's not both, then yeah, I think it's Lila and not Desmond. If it's just one of them, it's gonna be interesting to see. Yeah.
It feels like they are on a crash course to face each other at some point, though. Like, that's the feeling I get.
Yeah.
And the Harkonnen sisters have those whispers going on inside their head where it's like, "You killed him. You did this. You did that." Like, there's these like dark spirits always in their ears, so they're definitely not doing well.
And it's weird because some of them you can like hear and make out, and some of them are just like, even with subtitles on, just inaudible. Like,
it's creepy.
Pop off at all.
It's got to be intentional, I guess. But yeah, it does a good job of, it makes the viewer feel like they're going crazy. Like, it's coming from different points of the speakers. Like, the whole sound design behind it is pretty solid. So, well, yeah, I'm pretty interested to see what pops off there. Since we just skipped to Tula just because we were kind of on that roll there, let's just jump to Valya and her path in this episode, which starts off with we learn the Atreides and crew are preparing an assassination attempt or a bombing in the Emperor to start a rebellion. They're using a forbidden thinking machine. And on top of this, all these rumors are spreading about who killed the boy. And Valya says, I didn't start these rumors, but I damn sure I'm going to utilize them. And so she utilizes this to raise the Harkonnen family up. She gets this plan. She takes her pathetic nephew to use him as a little pawn, which he is pathetic. And gets this going on, but we find out that the person starting the rumors was the Empress behind it all, which was interesting. It was an interesting little twist there. Right before the Landsraad, though, I did have an issue here. We had the scene between the Atreides guy and Princess Inez, and I gotta say, this whole scene, it felt like CW-ish. Like, it felt really bad. I don't know, the dialogue, the tone to it. The way they were acting, it all felt like really like teen drama CW show. I don't know. It was just bad. I was watching the scene like, this feels like a different show I'm watching right now. I don't know if you guys had that thought at all, but
yeah, it did kind of feel like that. I will say for Harrow Harkonnen, I feel like the actor though nailed that role. Like,
oh yeah,
I thought he did. He's maybe not the best from this episode, but he did a good job with that.
Oh yeah, the unsure, scared, trying to be confident. He reminded me a lot of Edmund Tully, except younger and a little bit more awkward. But that whole like kind of trying to come off confident and whatnot, but you can tell he doesn't really know what he's doing. And Princess Inez comes up and challenges her dad, and he's like, "What do I do?" And Valya's like, "I think she just did it for you, dude." Like, but no, I think he nailed that role for sure.
He looks like the Jon Snow's friend on the wall. Not the big guy. Was it Pip or something?
Yeah, a little bit.
Little Pip in him.
Arrow through the throat, Pip. Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, shit.
Well,
spoilers.
Theo does Valya has her like read his mind in front of everyone, and she just like completely shits on him the whole time. And he's just sitting there like,
that's right.
And Bobby B's just kind of looking at him like,
It's like, you pathetic piece of shit. Like,
Oh, man.
it's like, it seems like all you want is a recognition, and you want to be looked at with pride and yada yada. And Bobby B, old ass, just trying to get him breaths, just absolutely ashamed. That was funny.
He's just shitting on him.
So Valya thinks she's got this plan locked in. We're getting to the Landsraad, which I loved this. We get the sequence of all of the great houses revive. They're doing something like that. Arriving at Salis Secunda.
Salusa Secundus.
Salusa Secundus. I am like, it's been a good day. Brain sharp. Things have been great today. Go Niners. Yeah, so we get to that place. We have all the great houses coming, and we get the dress-up scene for Mark Strong there as Emperor Carino's getting ready. Everybody's coming into this scene. It's building tents. It felt like a Game of Thrones, almost like something's about to go down at the Red Keep, and all the families are coming in, and the score is rising. And so it was a cool setup. I thought it set the scene really well. And I just love this. So Homeboy goes up there, introducing himself, starts explaining rules. He's kind of just getting ripped on immediately. Like, yeah, bro, everybody knows the rules here. Like, we got it. You can shut up and tell us what you're doing here. And he goes to out Emperor Carino to be like, we need an investigation into the death of Pruitt Cheesy. And Princess Inez comes out before he can finish it and challenges her own father and says his new man murdered him. Calls him out in front of everybody, which nobody was expecting. This stops the Atreides in his tracks. He was about to try to set off this bomb. Valya is kind of stopped in her tracks and didn't see this. And Desmond just jumps into action. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I didn't murder him. I killed him. Sure, absolutely. But it wasn't murder. Yeah, it was an execution. We all saw the thinking machines that he had." And I gotta say, Travis Fimmel ate this scene up. This monologue was done so well. When he comes in about the predators, he starts talking about when you're on Arrakis, there are predators everywhere. You've got the spiders and the snakes, and he's getting into it. He's getting pretty loud with his movements and stuff. You can tell he's eating the scene up. He's enjoying the monologue. And I just thought he absolutely nailed the scene as he's describing the predators and then slowly brings it to the predators that are within the council. And he calls the senator out, or not senator, the Duke out. And I thought I just loved this scene leading into this. And he pulls up the thinking machine. He says, it's got it right here. So he thwarted the assassination attempt. He got in front of the murder accusations. He stopped Atreides. He stopped Valya's plan. I mean, he just absolutely owned it and then burned everybody from within. So, Lub, what did you think of this whole interaction with Desmond out here and the Landsraad?
I'll do one nitpick at first. And it's not about this scene. It's kind of like the season as a whole, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
Would you care if anyone died?
It's a good question.
No, you wouldn't. I mean, we've been here for 4 hours, and you wouldn't really care if anyone died. Like Nez, Valya, you feel like we should have some more attachments by now.
I'd probably care if Desmond died, and that's about it. No, you're absolutely right. And just because I enjoy Desmond on screen, not because I like his character and want good things for him. But that's a good point.
I agree with what Lub's saying, though. There just hasn't been enough.
Yeah.
Like, you're not really attached to any of these characters.
Yeah.
Right.
4 hours. 2 movies worth right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was a rite of emotions where, Nez steps up and you think, oh, crap, they got it. And then it goes back the other way because Desmond's playing chess. And the rebels burning alive like Anakin on Mustafar was crazy to see. It looked just like that. But, yeah, it was still a great scene overall.
No, that's a great point, though. I didn't even consider that. But House of the Dragon in 2 episodes, I would have been bummed if Viserys was dead after the first episode or 2, or Rhaenyra or Daemon. I would have been bummed if all of them had died at that point. So that is a good critique. I agree with you on that one. Yeah, so he burns everybody alive from the inside. And he's going through pain, which is interesting. So we learned that this hurts him every time. He's starting to bleed from like what looks like slave whip wounds. Like he's got these massive scars all over his back. I don't know what that came from. And they're like opening every time he does this. So it makes me feel like whatever this entity did, it straight up ripped him open and consumed his body. Or not consumed, but like ripped him from behind and just straight up possessed his body and is using him as a vessel now or something. Because like, what are those scars doing? And he leaves behind the blood for Valya. So do we really think they're gonna get anything out of that blood noteworthy?
I think they might be able to find out what he is, not as much like ancestry, but like through
No
his
traces
blood
at
levels
all.
of certain things, and maybe be able to tell what is possessing him would be my guess, because again, I don't think they show that whole thing without it having some pertinent meaning behind it.
Right. No.
But I will say,
Maybe-
so before this scene starts, when Princess Inez and her brother are meeting, and she's telling him, oh, you are the strongest, bravest guy I know. And in my head, I'm like, this fool is like the weakest character in the entire show. This guy slept with some girl on Spice, throws his whole family under the bus. Like when they're at brunch that morning, he gets up to leave with her, and everyone just goes, sit down. And he sits back down. Like,
Oh my god.
I don't know, that whole thing. And then he leaves her stranded. He sees his dad right before, and he's like, oh, you're joining me today. And he's like, I just came to wish you good luck, and screws off. Like,
Such a bitch.
Yeah. And on top of that, right before Inez came down and ratted out her dad, she was looking for the prince, like frantically. It was like, where's the prince? Have you seen the prince? And then she came out. So I didn't know what the significance of that was, why she was frantically looking for him
wanted to
before
support.
calling him out.
yeah, she just wanted, like, to not be up there by herself, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
But when it comes to Desmond, it shows the flashback again of, the thumpers and his dead men around him, and, the worm pops up and it looks like he dies. So I think when it zooms into his eyes, it like clicks. You see that like thinking machine click go on inside of his eyes. So I think, the real question is who created him. That's kind of the same question as who's behind all of this. Who brought him back to life and sent him on this mission to stop the Bene Gesserit and their plans to, take control over the Emperor. So whoever's behind this, there's only 2 episodes left. Some people think it might be the Empress. She might be kind of the one behind controlling him, but I don't think she has that big of a plan. I think hers is more just kind of keeping herself safe and in power.
Yeah, I think she just saw the value, but it's the Lisan al-Gaib is controlling him from the future. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's definitely, but that scene was very interesting. So we again zoom in on his eyeball, and it goes to the desert, which that shot was amazing, by the way. We zoom in the eyeball, and then it cuts to the sky with the worm starting to come out of the sand, and then it comes back down on him, and we go back through his eyeball. It was a really cool shot. So I liked that scene right there. But
I did. Getting back
yeah.
to the council scene, though, I thought it was really good. It was that's when I texted you guys. Was like, oh, this is really starting to pop off, and then obviously other things happen too. But then we see Valya's whole plan get thwarted, basically. And part of me feels like Desmond knew that she was behind it, probably, just because it kind of seems like he knows everything. So it's kind of like a double whammy on that front. He's showing everybody his power, but then now she can't get back in the good grace of the Emperor. So it was a good scene.
I mean, he literally leaned on that post and stared her down, like, "What's up?" And then he kept walking. I almost feel like he intentionally gave her that blood sample. I don't know. It was weird. He very intentionally walked up and did that. But all around, that's what that shot was. It went to Desmond's eye, and then it transitioned to the moon of Arrakis over the sand. It was a really cool shot. But yeah, pretty crazy scene, pretty nuts. I really enjoyed this whole sequence with the Great Houses, and it'll be really interesting to see where we're going with House Carino and how they're going to handle this new kind of task. I think Emperor Carino, I think he's pretty bitch made. I think he just kind of looks for somebody to like even when he was asking for his permission to do the execution, he looks unsure all the time. His wife was the one who had to tell him, "Hey, dude, use this guy. He's going to help us." I just feel like he's very, very vulnerable and not quite a powerhouse of a character.
No, and Desmond clearly sees that too. I think he's playing chess over there for sure.
Totally. Yeah, he's playing into his ego, saying, "This is the man who will lead us from the predators," yada, yada, yada. It's like, yeah, that's me for sure. I knew I was good.
And when he meets him in his room later and puts his hand on his back, he's like, "Oh, you're okay. You can stay here." And he kind of looks over his shoulder at him, and it's like, "Yeah, I got him now.
I got you.
I'm in control."
Gotcha, bitch.
Yep, exactly.
So last part of this episode, real quick, we got that last scene where Valya goes back home. She steals Bobby B's inhaler. He can't breathe, and she lets him die. Pretty messed up. Ring the bells for Bobby B yet again. And then, so I was confused the first time I watched this. So Valya's brother walks out, who is obviously dead from years ago. I think that was her brother. And she starts breaking down, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, yada, yada, yada. You're so strong. You're taking this family." And she goes, "Did I push you too hard?" So I took this as the spirit of her brother or whatever, taking, possessing the body of the shapeshifter that we finally see as Theo. And I thought it was her actually embodying her brother and having a one-on-one conversation with Valya, and Valya was able to see, okay, did I go too hard? Was I the reason you died? Am I doing the right thing right now? Kind of assurances. And then when I watched it my second time, I realized, oh no, from the start, she's talking to Theo. It's just Theo did that to show, hey, I'm down for the cause. I just watched you come back to your home. You did all of this. I can see how much this means to you. And if you're willing to do all this, then I'm willing to do what I said I wouldn't. I'm fully down for the cause. And that's when she goes, "Did I push you too hard?" Because she's almost guilty that she made Theo do this thing that she swore to not do again. And it's basically Theo being like, "I'm down for the cause. Let's do it. I'm gonna use my powers I didn't want to," which apparently is shape-shifting. and could be a pretty massive. I mean, imagine shapeshifting in Game of Thrones politics. You could move some major pieces on the board with some shapeshifting. So that's how I took it. Ben, how did you interpret this scene?
Pretty similarly.
Okay.
The more I thought about it, the more I think that she is going to shift maybe into Desmond and like either do something dumb or just try to get to the Emperor in some capacity. That would kind of be my guess of where that's going. But I forgot about, so there it's she's a face dancer.
Right.
Is the term for it, and then it made me think of obviously faceless men. So I'm pretty sure they stole that from
George.
Dune. Face, yeah.
Classic.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with that. But that was my best guess, was either she turns into Desmond, maybe she turns into the Emperor and does something. There's a lot of ways that they could go with that for sure.
We got to stay on our toes going forward now. Any character, any scene, we don't know. Maybe it's Theo. Lub, how'd you interpret that scene?
Differently.
Okay.
I think I took it as Valya being manipulative again, because this is something she didn't want to do, and I feel like Theo was cosplaying as her brother to help her feel better about the situation, because if this was something she didn't want to do, why would she go through all this pain just to be her brother? Like, that seems like a waste of your talents just to stand in a room for a couple minutes. I feel like when she said that I pushed you too hard, I feel like she was talking about her to her brother.
To her brother
like,
getting
trying
killed.
to like get these like, you know, final thoughts out of the way so she can move on. And Theo is just like playing the role of her brother to make her feel better. And because afterwards she starts screaming like it's painful.
It was painful. Yeah. So do you think that her brother was actually, like, his conscience was actually talking to her, or do you think Theo was just role playing?
Well, I guess the thing about the face dancers is you know them so well that you can change into them and like have their thoughts. It's not just like I guess you have to like know them to change into them, which is also weird, because how could you just change into her brother without knowing
him?
Or even,
he would have died before Theo was even alive, I feel like.
And even like knowing what he looks like, you know? So that was kind of interesting, but so that's why I feel like Valya made her do it, because she had no idea who her brother was.
Well, I see where you're coming from with that, and I would say it's very interpretive to how you see it. I think still right now until we find out more. But yeah, my first time I thought it was like, so we had 3 different takes initially, because I was thinking it was her brother embodying her, like possessing her as a vessel and actually talking to her, being like, hey, you didn't screw up when I was young. It's not your fault I died. You're doing this for the good of our house. Valya needed a pep talk from her dead brother. But then, yeah, again, like I said, the second time, I think it was just Theo saying I'm down for the cause. But now I'm really interested to see what the case is.
And this is another origin they're doing, because this might be the first ever face dancer. And I guess Dune Messiah opens with like a council, and one of them is a face dancer, because we don't really see him in Dune.
I was going to ask, so the term face dancer, did you guys just look into that, or was that in the book?
I don't think it's in the first book.
No,
I don't recall
I looked
it.
into it a little more today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Voice and personality. Huh.
Yeah, the personality
Very
part.
interesting.
You know, like you actually do embody who they were.
Huh.
You're not just shape-shifting.
Yeah, because she didn't seem like she was acting like Theo. It seemed like it was her brother's kind of, I don't know, persona and vibe to it. But it was, it was confusing. So I guess they need to square that away.
More questions.
A lot of questions
in 2 episodes.
I was just gonna say, a lot of questions, not a lot of time. So we'll see. We got episode 5 coming up here, obviously Sunday, and then we'll have another week for the finale. I really don't know what to expect regarding this. I don't know if you guys have any expectations for the last 2 episodes you want to throw out there, but I other than my random thing of Tula and Lila fight and Desmond and Valya fight, and then Lila and Valya square off in the finale. That's pretty much my long shot theory.
More answers than questions, like we said, because I know a lot, you know, shows these days, they like to leave you on these cliffhangers. And I feel like they should have planned this show out not knowing exactly if they were going to get a season 2 or not. I feel like they're setting up for it, but I feel like they should have been like, okay, just in case we don't get a season 2, let's make people happy at the end of season 1. And I would like to see more action scenes. Like, I feel like they on the next on it did Desmond and the troops were all going out to like defend the Imperium or something. So I would
Is
like
he
to
in
see
armor?
some more like. He was in black, so he was matching them. He wasn't in his same kind of stuff. But yeah, let's hit some more like more than one-on-one action scene.
Yeah, I'd be down for. All we've had is a training sequence, pretty much. I mean, but yeah, I saw a thumb clip, and it was a thumbnail, and it was Desmond wearing the golden armor that Paul is wearing when he has the blade over his face, but it's Desmond's face, and I was like, was that on Next On? Like, what? Okay. All right. By the way, real quick, got a shout out Victor Alcantara. Sorry, it's been a long day. I can't speak tonight. Victor Alcantara is in the chat again. He joined us for the entire episode last time of Dune, so shout out to Victor. And he asked, so the shapeshifter went with Valya as emotional support, ? In the scene where she asks. Victor, I don't think we know. I think it's very open-ended, I think that's possible. It was, like I said, emotional support. Value needed a reassurance, or it was Theo saying she's down, or I don't know. I'm even less confident than I was before.
He was right about the Desmond line, though. In the comment in the last episode, he said, do you think Desmond could be AI or a thinking machine? Remember?
Yes, yeah, he did say that. And he had another theory out there too that I think kind of popped up in this episode. So Victor had some solid feedback coming in from last episode. So
or he's read that
shout
book.
out to you, Victor. Thank you for coming in here, brother. What about the book?
Or he's read the book.
Or he's read the book and you're spoiling it all for us. Damn it, Victor. Nah, he's just a big Dune fan there. Oh, shout out to JD too. We see you there, dog. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this thing up?
I have no clue where the last 2 episodes are gonna head, but I'm hoping for a second season. I just think they're gonna have to cram it, and let this be a note. Anybody making a show, never make a 6-episode season ever.
Horrible, dude.
From
And the
10
new
to
thing is
8.
8's pushing it. You can do it in 8.
I still don't
6
like
is
8.
just not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, Victor says no books, so he's just a sharp tool.
Raw dog.
Got that. Raw dog it is. Sorry, last thing and super quick. Thus far, would you say this show is an 8+? Would you give it an 8 or higher rating so far?
I'm gonna go like 7.
Oof. Okay, Lub.
Yeah, probably high 7s.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you guys. I think it's got the potential to be a mid-8, depending on these last 2 episodes, but
Right.
they got to make it happen. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for us here tonight, covering Dune Prophecy. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, follow us on our socials. Check out the links in the episode description, and be on the lookout for more Dune coverage, more comic book coverage, and our upcoming collab with Clan Brandalorian, where we're going to go into Star Wars and try to be as positive as we can, and just remember the good times and hope for some future good times. So thank you for joining us. We will see you next time on Why So Sidious a Nerd podcast.
In a galaxy far, 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 far away.
We're good. Oh, that was a struggle. I couldn't speak.
You got it.
That was a long day. All right. Good job, everybody.
2 more episodes. Let's see what happens.
You gonna join us for the coverage of the last 2, dog?
Yeah, I'll come back for it.
All right,
So we
you're
can
in.
Sift through whether it. I think
Was
it's
worth
gonna,
it or not.
It's gonna end for me at a high 6 or like a mid 8, like you said. Like it's gonna. I think